So let's talk about, first of all, jiu-jitsu. There will be a lot of people listening to this podcast right now, Ulpiano, who know exactly who you are. They'll know about your jiu-jitsu career, but there will be a lot of people that don't. And so tell us your story. Like, where were you born? How did you get to the United States? How did you get into jiu-jitsu? Things like that.
Yeah, so I'm from Brazil. I was born and raised in a city called Belo Horizonte, which is the capital of Minas Gerais, one of the strongest states in Brazil, you know. And I came from a middle class. My dad was a dentist, you know. My mom was a stay-home mom with 3 kids, you know. So my whole life I went to a private school, and at a young age in Brazil, your parents always try to find the sports for you to play. You know, it's a little different than America, because America actually the initiative is at the school. You know, most of the schools they provide the sport environment, and then your parents just wave with. In Brazil, it's not. So your parents have to sign you up for some kind of sport outside of a school, because even the school, the schedule is different. You know, in Brazil, you get in to the first class if you have two turns. You can be a student in the morning or a student of the evening. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
usually, if you go to school in the morning, your class is from 7:15 to 12. You know, lunchtime. So at this time, you know, you go back home to do your homework, and you spend the rest of the day at home. So the parents, they go crazy, you know. They try to find a soccer. And when I was a kid, jiu-jitsu was not a big sport in Brazil.
Yeah.
As much as the Brazilian jiu-jitsu was not something that was organized as today, classes for kids, you know. And so my
And
mom put
when
me
is this?
to,
Is this like the early 80s, like the 1980s, roughly? We're talking
yeah,
about mid
I'm
80s.
old, you know. I'm from 1979.
Hey, don't tell me you're old. I'm older than you are.
I'm from 1979. So let's say in 84 or 85, you know, my mom said that I was full of energy, and
Yeah.
she put me to train judo in a school by my house. So I have an older brother that actually trained judo as well. So we both training. And at that time, I have no idea about jiu-jitsu. It was just judo. So I got really into to the sport. And then I was traveling, competing since I was a kid for judo. I compete the whole state. I compete, you know, in some other states in Brazil. My mom take me, you know. So I was fortunate to come from middle class. So I was not struggling to travel. My mom and my dad, they always supporting with this, you know. And I think it was when I was 16 or 15, I got a hepatitis. The one that you have liver problems, that you have to stay home. I couldn't do any exercise or going to school for a while. And I have to stop to train judo. So I think I take a break like 6 months, 8 months. And one of my good friends, his name is Eric Vanderlei. He was the time a world champion jiu-jitsu, you know, the toughest guy in my city. And he actually lived across the street from my aunt. So when I decided to go back, I said, no, I'm going to try use my judo skills against this guy, because he probably is not that good. So I went there, they kicked my butt. They screw judo, man. I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. So, and then I started to train jiu-jitsu with this guy, because this guy was like one of the biggest names on the world. He was like world champion in every belt. He was world champion in the black belt. You know, he was the Roger Gracie of my city at the time. You know, he was the beast.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my aunt lives across the street from his house, so he helped me. He didn't even charge me. He let me train for free. And
Nice.
I started to train, and then at that time was not with any intention to become my job. Nothing. It was just like a group of friends that like to fight, that like to compete, and like to test themselves.
Yeah.
So we did this. And at that point, I was not going to the main school, which was Draculino, my professor that lives actually in Houston as well. So, but Eric was a student from Draculino, you know, so Draculino was just the top guy. So I was not the top guy, so I was Eric, you know, and he's my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
So the time was moving, and then I moved up on the belts, and I moved to another city called Vitoria. because I was going to university. I was going to college, actually, you know. And I moved to another state, and I started training another guy that was from a different team, you know. His name is Bruno de Paula, and he's still friends till today. So I went to Bruno de Paula, and then later on, I have opportunity to move to Finland, you know, to cover a friend of mine to teach jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
At that time, was not idea to become my job. Was an opportunity to go make some dollars and come back.
Yeah.
So I went to Helsinki for a while without English, no very good English or anything. And then I come back. So at that time, I remember one of my best friends, he decided to move to America because he wants to fight UFC or something like this.
Yeah.
And then he said, let's move.